What's the most out of touch thing you've heard someone say? When I couldn't afford something and my rich friend said, "Just check if you have any more money lying around." Bahaha. Jesus. Yet just tucked away in my sock drawer. I had a friend whose son got convicted of homicide. Another friend tried to empathize by saying that his son got a speeding ticket and he didn't know what to do about it. The first man said, "Pay the fucking ticket and hug your son," then he left. I had a friend who was like this. One of my friends ended a 3-year relationship because her boyfriend cheated on her. Another friend, who had never been in a relationship before, tried to sympathize, saying she knew exactly how she was feeling because she also just recently broke up with a guy that she went on like 4 dates with. "You work too hard, that's why you're so stressed. You need to take a vacation and relax in Italy for a week or 2. Why didn't I think of that? I'll just go shake some money off my money tree and be on the next flight." Reminds me of when I had saved for a week vacation to Portugal and a friend asked why I didn't go to Spain too. I said I didn't think I'd have enough time, only being there for a week, and she said, "Why don't you just stay a few more weeks?" Wow, why didn't I think of that? Just buy the place you're renting so you don't waste your money and turn a profit. CEO of my job who was pulling in a pension from his government job, and 2 part-time salaries from the 2 positions he sat on. When I said how could I afford that, he asked if he wasn't paying me enough. I said no and he left my office. LMAO, does he think you're just renting for fun? My boss, who makes $300K plus, said we should be grateful for them cutting some of our holiday pay, because legally we don't have to give you any. I'm quitting as soon as I can find another job, lol. At my old job, my boss asked everyone if they knew what the company's #1 expense was. He said it was payroll. Gee, imagine having to pay people for the work they were hired to do. He also one quarter decided to contribute nothing to our profit sharing. He then became later and later depositing profit sharing into our accounts. He was so late he literally skipped a quarter. A family friend's child passed away suddenly. One of their family members said, "God doesn't make mistakes. It was her time." I'm still pissed about it. Holy shit, that's horrible. Why on earth would someone think that's okay to say? I have absolutely no idea at all. A bizarre coping mechanism? Blinded by their religion to the point they believe saying it was God's plan would somehow ease the pain. This happened 10 plus years ago, and I still think about it time to time and get upset. Like literally, what the actual FK? In high school, got called out of class to my guidance counselor's office where my mom was waiting to break the news that my best friend had been killed the night before in a car crash. I'll never forget the blank stare that GC gave me while I'm in the middle of a total meltdown as she asked, "I take it this is someone you knew?" Nah, lady. Never heard of them until today. This is just how I react every time somebody dies. I'm what you might call an extreme empath. I had a guidance counselor call me into the middle school to report my son was acting out, and it's been long enough, he should be over his dad's death now. It had been 2 years, he was 12 and his dad had died suddenly and unexpectedly. I worked really hard to get that guidance counselor fired. We just have our cook make it he was an out-of-touch rich kid that bragged about being rich to the point that his wallet was stolen 4 times. His twin sister is completely normal. But I think he's weird because his family either named their restaurants after him or named him after their restaurants, so it's like their whole business is for him. When I told my boss that my dad has cancer and we're waiting for staging, she reassured me that it's better he die quickly and not from dementia, as her best friend's parent has it, and it was worse than cancer. I told her that that comment was not helpful at this time, at all. When I told my boss at the time that my mom was starting hospice and I'd probably be needing to take some time off soon, she said, "Yeah, I get it, my mom had breast cancer and passed too. But you know, I kept working. Thank God she's no longer my boss or at my company. Though I still have PTSD from her." In college I had 3 roommates, and one hated the other for the most trivial shit. One of which he just watched sports. On September 12th, 2001, she said she was kinda glad the terrorist attacks happened because then he couldn't watch sports for a few days. It was at lunch and everyone got up and moved to another table and left her there to marinate with her thoughts. Why can't they just pay their credit card debt with their money? I went to a top private school, we were all wealthy. At least my parents gave me some sense of empathy and understanding of the world for others. She couldn't get why people were in debt when I had to explain they didn't actually have money to begin with. I was traveling through a particularly poor part of the USA with some hippie friends on a hippie bus. I do not consider myself a hippie. The people who lived there had tin sheets and pallets and other, basically junk materials put together to make their homes. As someone who didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, not as bad as this, I was feeling a bit down about seeing the situation. There was a woman on the bus who was very, let's say, well off because of her parents. She looked out the window with a fairly disgusted look on her face and said, "I don't understand why people live like this." Everyone on the bus looked at her as someone said, "They probably don't exactly have a choice." It was fairly quiet for a while. This reminds me of an episode of World's Strictest Parents, a British reality series where out-of-control teens were sent to live with families in other countries where schooling etc. is far stricter to straighten them out. A girl saw a small child in a slum wearing branded trainers and said if his parents didn't spend so much on designer clothes they could probably afford a house. One of the other teens had to point out that they were probably donated to charity and given to the child as their parents couldn't afford to buy shoes. She was still annoyed that the shoes were Nike or whatever. Grew up in a broken home, parents couldn't stand each other. Father came to visit one weekend when my sister was out being a teenager. Dad says right to my face, "Well, there's no point being here if it's just you." Needless to say, I think I've realized where my lack of self-worth stemmed from. At a wedding I attended back in my 20s, this person grew up with 4 homes, one internationally. After he and his brother moved out, parents built another home. A 10-bedroom each with its own full bathroom house on the edge of a golf course. Gym, wine cellar, sauna, room with a full bar, pool table, roulette table, poker table, etc. And get this, a room with one of those golf simulation things despite literally living on the golf course which they could use year-round. A couple of direct quotes from people at our table, just to set the scene. "I'm planning to buy my wife and I ate plain. I proposed to my girlfriend at a castle I rented in Europe. I think my next plastic surgery will be XYZ." And apparently the bridal party took a 3-minute limo ride to the clubhouse where the wedding was. At the ceremony there was a 15-minute fireworks show. Whole thing probably cost $500,000. And during dinner, one of the parents gave a speech and I shit you not they said, "I'm so proud of these two. They've had nothing handed to them in life and have worked so hard to get to where they are today. I still haven't picked my jaw up off the floor. They didn't make good choices in life, they had good choices given to them. The world went to shit when women were given rights." My father-in-law told me that he would never vote for a woman because all the good ones are staying home with their kids. Sexist ass. "At least you can drink and smoke again," a woman told me a few hours after I had surgery for a miscarriage. "I don't get why people use food stamps. Just budget better." Homeless? Just buy a home. Once my son told me a homeless lady could just build a house so she wouldn't be homeless anymore. He was 3. When I moved to a new area, joined a women's group at a church to try to make some friends. Really loved the women there, but the woman who led it was in her 50s and definitely living a different reality from everyone there. One day, a woman who had been coming had an absolute breakdown and shared the absolute hell that had been the last year of her life. She left an abusive marriage that included a situation where the abuse led to her hospitalization, was currently a single mother of 3 kids, was full of self-doubt and struggling with financial issues, and her ex-husband was harassing her and fighting her in court for custody. The rest of us are listening and being supportive. However, our leader interrupts her story to say the following. "Oh, I completely understand what you are going through. My husband I fight sometimes too, but we always make sure we apologize right away. It sounds like you weren't doing that. And pray about it. Jesus will heal your marriage. Your kids need their father." When people in the church ask, "Why do people judge us so harshly?" 100% this. That people who live with depression do so because they don't have God. My mom told me to pray to God to take away my anxiety. I was 8 years old. Surprise, Mom. That didn't fucking work and only increased my anxiety because now I was such a horrible person because God ignored me or said no to my earnest prayers. I went to a nice private school that had a new policy for financial aid that went to anyone whose household made less than $80,000 per year. This girl rolled her eyes and said, "Who makes that little?" Heard a coworker say, "Why do we have vaccines for diseases that haven't been around for hundreds of years?" Germany helps all its homeless people. The only people there who are homeless are so because they get more benefits that way. Yeah, I'm sure the guy who slept in the park in the cold did so because he prefers it to a government-provided apartment. Was explaining to my boss why his technical solution is not possible. His response, "You're a smart guy, you can figure it out." What's the most out-of-touch thing you've heard someone say? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.